Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the CK English podcast. I am your host, Karis, and I am so happy to have you here in our virtual classroom today. Before we jump into our very important study session, I have a small but important request. We are a new, growing channel, and our mission is to help people all over the world speak English with confidence. But we cannot do this alone. We need your support to reach more students just like you. So right now, before we start the teaching, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with one friend who is learning English. Thank you so much for being part of our family and helping us grow. Now, let me ask you a question that might surprise you. Have you ever felt like you know a lot of English words and grammar, but when you watch a movie or listen to native speakers, you still feel lost? It is almost like they are speaking a secret code. Well, that secret code is often made of idioms. Did you know that native English speakers use an idiom almost every minute in a normal conversation? If you do not know these phrases, you are missing a huge part of the language. I remember a student of mine named Marco. He was great at grammar, but on his first day at a new job in New York, his boss walked in and said, "Okay, everyone, let's get the ball rolling." Poor Marco spent the next few minutes looking at the floor because he thought a real ball was going to start rolling across the office. He was so confused. That is why today we are going to learn 50 idioms you must know to sound natural. Let's start with our first group of phrases, which are perfect for when you are starting a project or working in an office. Imagine you are in a room full of people you do not know. Everyone is quiet, and it feels a little bit awkward. In English, we describe this feeling as being cold. To fix this, we use idiom number 1, break the ice. This means to say or do something friendly so that people feel relaxed. For example, if you're at a party and no one is talking, you might tell a funny story to break the ice. This helps everyone start smiling and talking. Now, listen carefully to how we use this. You could say, "A simple hello is a great way to break the ice." Some learners make a small mistake here and say, "I broke the ice yesterday." That is wrong because we are talking about the past. The correct sentence is, "I broke the ice yesterday." Can you try saying that out loud? I broke the ice. Great job. Now let's go back to my friend Marco and the phrase his boss used, which is idiom number 2, get the ball rolling. This simply means to start a process or a project. Imagine a big, heavy ball. The hardest part is that first push to make it move. Once it starts, it keeps going. That is why we use this phrase when we want to start something. For example, if you're in a meeting and you want to start working, you can say, "Let's get the ball rolling on this new video." Let me show you a common mistake. Some students say, "I want to get a ball rolling." That is not quite right because we almost always say the ball. So, the correct way is, "I want to get the ball rolling." Have you ever had to get the ball rolling on a difficult task? It feels good once you start. Sometimes, we start something and it does not work. Maybe your plan fails or your idea is not good. When this happens, we have to start over from the very beginning. We use idiom number 3 for this, back to the drawing board. A drawing board is where people like architects draw their plans. If the plan is bad, they go back to that board to start a new one. For example, if you try to bake a cake and it tastes terrible, you might say, "Well, that didn't work. It is back to the drawing board for me." I often hear learners say, "We go back to drawing board." That is wrong because we need the word the again. The correct sentence is, "We are going back to the drawing board." It is a long phrase, but it sounds very professional. Imagine you are at work and a project fails. Instead of sounding sad, you can sound like a leader by saying, "It's okay, let's just go back to the drawing board." Now, to be successful, you often have to work very hard. Sometimes you have to work late into the night. We have a classic idiom for this, which is number 4, burn the midnight oil. Long ago, before we had light bulbs, people used oil lamps to see at night. If they worked late, they were burning their oil. Today, it just means to work or study late. For example, if you have a big test tomorrow, you might say, "I will be burning the midnight oil tonight to finish my studies." Listen to this mistake. Some learners say, I am burning midnight oil. Again, we need that word, the. The correct sentence is, I am burning the midnight oil. Have you been burning the midnight oil lately to learn English? If you are watching this, I am very proud of your hard work. But here is a warning. Even if you are working hard, you must be careful not to do idiom number 5, cut corners. Imagine you are running around a square. If you cut the corners, you are taking a shortcut. In English, this means to do something in a fast or cheap way, but you do it poorly. You are not doing your best work. For example, if a mechanic fixes a car but uses cheap, bad parts to save time, we say he is cutting corners. You might say, the company tried to cut corners to save money, and now the product is broken. Some people say he cut corners. That is wrong because the past of cut is still cut. The correct sentence is, he cut corners on the project. In your English journey, please do not cut corners. Take your time to learn correctly. After working very hard and perhaps burning the midnight oil, you eventually get tired. When you decide it is time to stop working for the day, you use idiom number 6, call it a day.
This is a very common phrase in American offices. It means to decide that you have done enough work and you are going home. For example, if it is 5 p.m. and you are finished with your tasks, you can say to your coworkers, I'm tired. Let's call it a day. A common mistake is saying, I call it day. You must remember the A. The correct way to say it is, let's call it a day. Wouldn't it be nice to call it a day right now? But stay with me. We have a few more to cover in this section. While you are at work, it is important to know what is happening. To stay informed, we use idiom number 7, in the loop. Think of a circle or a loop. If you are inside the circle, you know the information. If you are outside, you don't. So, being in the loop means you are part of the group that receives all the updates. For example, you might say to your boss, please keep me in the loop about the new schedule. Sometimes learners say, keep me in loop. That is missing a word. The correct sentence is, keep me in the loop. It makes you sound very involved and professional. Are you in the loop with the latest English tips? Well, you are now. Next, we have idiom number 8, the big picture. Sometimes we focus too much on small, tiny problems and we forget about the main goal. The big picture means the whole situation, not just the small parts. For example, if you are worried about one difficult word in a book, your teacher might say, don't worry about that one word, look at the big picture of the story. A wrong way to say this is, look at big picture. We always need that The correct sentence is, look at the big picture. It helps us stay positive when things are difficult. Now, before you finish a project, you might need to talk to your partner one last time. We use idiom number 9 for this, touch base. This means to contact someone briefly to see how they are doing or to get an update. It is not a long meeting. It is just a quick message or call. For example, you could say, I will touch base with you on Monday to see if the work is finished. I hear some students say, I will touch the base. That is wrong. In this idiom, we do not use the. The correct way is just, I will touch base. Try saying that, I will touch base. It's a very useful phrase for business. Finally, for this group, we have idiom number 10, up in the air. Have you ever had a plan that was not 100% certain yet? Maybe you are waiting for an answer? We say those plans are up in the air. Imagine something floating in the sky. It hasn't landed yet, so we don't know where it will go. For example, if you ask your friend if they are going on vacation, they might say, my plans are still up in the air because I haven't bought my ticket. A common mistake is saying, the plan is on the air. That is for radio or TV. The correct sentence for uncertainty is, the plan is up in the air. We have just covered our first 10 idioms. You are doing an amazing job. We learned how to break the ice, get the ball rolling, go back to the drawing board, why we burn the midnight oil, why we should not cut corners, when to call it a day, how to stay in the loop, looking at the big picture, why we touch base, and what happens when things are up in the air. I want you to pick one of these 10 idioms right now. Think of a sentence about your own life. Are your weekend plans up in the air? Write your sentence in the comments below. I promise to read them and help you.
Now that we have mastered those workplace phrases, let's talk about how we feel. English speakers love to use colorful language to describe their health and their emotions. For example, have you ever felt just a little bit sick? Maybe you have a headache or a small cold. In English, we use idiom number 11, under the weather. This means you are not feeling 100% well. For example, you might tell your boss, I can't come to the meeting today because I am feeling a bit under the weather. A common mistake I hear is when students say, I am under the rain. That is not correct. The correct sentence is, I am under the weather. Have you ever had to stay home because you were feeling under the weather? It happens to all of us. But what about when you are extremely happy? Imagine you just got a promotion or you won a prize. You are not just happy, you are at the highest level of joy. We use idiom number 12 for this, on cloud 9. Imagine you are floating high in the sky because you are so glad. For example, you could say, she has been on cloud 9 since she passed her English exam. Some learners say, I am in cloud 9. That is wrong because the preposition is very important here. The correct sentence is, I am on cloud 9. Doesn't that sound much more exciting than just saying, I am happy? Now, sometimes people get upset or angry about something small. Maybe a friend was late or someone made a mistake. When a person gets very annoyed, we use idiom number 13, bent out of shape. Imagine a piece of metal that is smooth, but then it gets twisted and bent. That is how a person feels when they are stressed or angry. For example, you could say, don't get so bent out of shape just because I forgot to call you. A mistake I often see is, he is bent out from shape. That is incorrect. The correct way to say it is, he got bent out of shape. Have you ever seen someone get bent out of shape over a tiny problem? It is better to stay calm. If you want another way to say you are very happy, we have idiom number 14, over the moon. This is very similar to being on cloud 9. It means you are delighted and absolutely thrilled. For example, if your friend gets married, you might say, I am over the moon for you. I hear some people say, I am over moon. You must remember that little word, the. The correct sentence is, I am over the moon. It is such a positive way to share your excitement with others. But life is not always easy. Sometimes we have to accept a difficult truth or a situation that we do not like. We call this idiom number 15, a bitter pill to swallow. Imagine medicine that tastes very bad, but you must take it to get better. It is an unpleasant fact that you have to accept. For example, losing the game was a bitter pill to swallow, but the team learned a lot. Some learners say it is a bitter pill for swallow. That is not right. The correct sentence is, it was a bitter pill to swallow. Has a difficult truth ever been a bitter pill to swallow for you? It is hard, but it makes us stronger. Let's move to something more fun. Imagine your friend is about to go on stage to give a speech or perform a song. In the world of theater, it is actually considered bad luck to say, good luck. Instead, we use idiom number 16, break a leg. It sounds scary, but it actually means I hope you do a great job. For example, before my sister's dance show, I told her, go out there and break a leg. A common mistake is thinking this is a mean thing to say. Some students say, I will break your leg. No, that is a threat. The correct way to wish someone luck is simply to say, break a leg. Can you try saying that to a friend today? But what if your friend gets so nervous that they want to cancel their plans? Maybe they are about to get married or start a big job and suddenly they are afraid. We use idiom number 17 for this, get cold feet. It means to become nervous or lose your courage at the last minute. For example, he was going to jump out of the airplane for fun, but he got cold feet. Some people say, I have cold foot. That is wrong because we usually talk about both feet. The correct sentence is, I got cold feet. Have you ever got cold feet before a big event? It is okay to be nervous. Now, let's talk about love. When you fall in love with someone very deeply and very quickly, we use idiom number 18, head over heels. Imagine someone doing a somersault or falling down because they are so excited. For example, since they met last summer, they have been head over heels in love. I often hear learners say, "He is head over the heels." You actually do not need the word they hear. The correct sentence is, "He is head over heels in love." It is a very sweet way to describe a big romance. When things are difficult and you feel a bit sad, your friends might try to encourage you. They might use idiom number 19, keep your chin up. If you are sad, you usually look down at the floor. By keeping your chin up, you are looking forward and staying positive. It means to stay brave in a tough situation. For example, I know you lost your job, but keep your chin up, something better will come. Some learners say, keep the chin up. Usually, we say your chin. The correct way is, keep your chin up. It is a great thing to say to someone who is having a hard time. Finally, for this group, let's talk about secrets. Imagine your friend tells you a secret, but you accidentally tell someone else. We use idiom number 20, spill the beans. Imagine a jar of beans that tips over. You can't put them back in easily. It means to give away a secret. For example, we were planning a surprise party, but Sarah spilled the beans. I hear some students say, don't spill beans. You need that word, the. The correct sentence is, don't spill the beans. Are you good at keeping secrets, or do you always spill the beans? Be honest. Wow, we have now covered 20 idioms. You are doing such a great job following along. We have talked about feeling under the weather, being on cloud 9, getting bent out of shape, and being over the moon. We learned about a bitter pill to swallow, telling someone to break a leg, what happens when you get cold feet, being head over heels, remembering to keep your chin up, and, of course, trying not to spill the beans. Which one of these emotional idioms describes you today? Are you on cloud 9 because you're learning so much? Tell me in the comments. And remember, if you haven't subscribed to the CK English podcast yet, please do it now so you stay in the loop. Now that we have talked about our feelings, let's talk about something we all wish we had more of, time. Time is a huge part of our lives, and English speakers have some very creative ways to talk about it. Let's start with idiom number 21, once in a blue moon. Have you ever seen a blue moon? Probably not, because it is very rare. This idiom means that something happens very, very rarely. For example, you might say, I only eat chocolate once in a blue moon because I am trying to be healthy. A common mistake is saying, I do it once in blue moon. You must remember that little word a. The correct way to say it is, I do it once in a blue moon. How about you? What is something you only do once in a blue moon? Maybe you only go to the gym once in a blue moon? Don't worry, your secret is safe with me. Sometimes, when people are talking, they take a long time to get to the point. They talk about many things that are not important because they are nervous or shy. We call this idiom number 22, beat around the bush. It means avoiding the main topic. For example, if you want to ask your boss for a raise, don't talk about the weather for 10 minutes. Just ask. You could say, stop trying to beat around the bush and tell me what you really want. Some learners say, don't beat the bush. But you need that word around. The correct sentence is, stop trying to beat around the bush. It's much better to be direct, right? But what if you are late for a meeting or a party? You might feel bad, but it is still better that you showed up. We use idiom number 23 for this, better late than never. This is a very positive thing to say when someone arrives late. For example, if your friend arrives at your birthday party 2 hours late, you can smile and say, hey, better late than never. A mistake I often hear is, better late than nothing. While it makes sense, it is not the idiom we use. The correct way is, better late than never. Have you ever used this when you forgot to finish your homework on time? It's a great way to apologize. Now, imagine you are running to catch a bus. The doors are closing, but you stick your hand in and jump on just before it pulls away. You made it. We call this idiom number 24, in the nick of time. It means you did something at the very last possible moment. For example, I finished my report and sent it to my boss in the nick of time. Some students say I arrived in nick of time. You need that word, the before nick. The correct sentence is, I arrived in the nick of time. It's a very exciting phrase to use when you narrowly avoid a problem. Speaking of time, have you ever noticed that when you are having a lot of fun, the clock seems to move faster? We have a perfect idiom for that, and it is number 25, time flies. It simply means that time passes very quickly. For example, I can't believe we have already been studying for 20 minutes. Time flies when we are together. A common grammar mistake is saying, time fly. Remember, time is singular, so we say flies. The correct sentence is, time flies. Does time fly for you when you are practicing your English with the CK English podcast? I certainly hope so. Sometimes, we are in a hurry and we want someone to stop talking and give us the most important information. We use idiom number 26, cut to the chase. This is a great phrase for business. It means to skip the unimportant parts and talk about what matters. For example, we don't have much time, so let's cut to the chase and talk about the price. I often hear learners say, cut the chase. You need the word to in the middle. The correct way is, let's cut to the chase. It sounds very confident and professional. While you are working on a project or learning a new skill, people might ask you how it is going. If everything is going well so far, you use idiom number 27, so far, so good. This is a very common response. It means that up to this point, there are no problems. For example, if you just started a new diet and you feel great, you can say, I started my diet yesterday and so far, so good. Some people try to be too grammatical and say, so far, so well. But that is not the idiom. The correct phrase is, so far, so good. Can you say that for me? So far, so good. Now, English can be a little bit complicated sometimes, right? Sometimes you hear a rule and you think, wait, what? When you are trying to understand something difficult or complex, we use idiom number 28, wrap your head around something. It means to finally understand something that is hard to learn. For example, it took me a long time to wrap my head around English prepositions. A common mistake is saying, I can't wrap my head about it. The correct preposition is around. So, the correct sentence is, I can't wrap my head around this new math problem. Is there anything in English that you are still trying to wrap your head around? Let me know and I will help you. When you are out shopping, you might see something very beautiful but very expensive. If you can afford it without spending all of your money, we use idiom number 29, break the bank. We usually use this in the negative to say something is affordable. For example, this watch is very nice and it won't break the bank. It means it won't cost all your money. A mistake I see often is, it breaks a bank. We always say, the bank. The correct sentence is, it won't break the bank. It's a great way to talk about prices while you are shopping. Finally, for this group about time and decisions, we have idiom number 30, last resort. This is your final plan. It is what you do only when every other idea has failed. For example, I don't want to sell my car, but I will do it as a last resort if I need the money. A common mistake is when students confuse the words resort and result. They say, this is my last result. That is wrong. The correct phrase is, this is my last resort. Think about a problem you have. What is your last resort to fix it? We have now covered 30 idioms. We are more than halfway through our list of 50. You are doing so well. We have learned how to talk about things that happen once in a blue moon, why we shouldn't beat around the bush, and why it's better late than never. We talked about arriving in the nick of time, how time flies, when to cut to the chase, and saying so far, so good. We also learned how to wrap your head around difficult things, how not to break the bank, and what to do as a last resort. Which of these time idioms is your favorite? I really like time flies because it reminds me to enjoy every moment with you. Before we move into our next 10 idioms, which are all about daily life and general conversation, take a second to check if you have liked this video. Your likes help the CK English podcast reach more students around the world. Now let's move into our next group of idioms, which are perfect for daily life and general conversation. These are the phrases you will hear in coffee shops, in movies, and when you are just hanging out with your friends. Have you ever done something that was so simple you didn't even have to think about it? For that, we use idiom number 31, a piece of cake. This means something is very easy to do. For example, if you finish your English homework in only 5 minutes, you can say, that homework was a piece of cake. A common mistake I hear is when people say, that was a cake piece. That is not right. The correct way to say it is, that was a piece of cake. Is there anything in your life right now that feels like a piece of cake? Maybe cooking your favorite meal? Now, sometimes we want to buy something beautiful, but it is way too expensive. We already learned about breaking the bank, but here is another very popular way to say something is very costly. It is idiom number 32, costs an arm and a leg. Imagine if you had to give away your arm and your leg just to buy a phone. That is how expensive it feels. For example, I love that designer bag, but it costs an arm and a leg. I often hear learners say, it costs arm and leg. You must remember to say an and a. The correct sentence is, it costs an arm and a leg. Have you ever seen something in a store that costs an arm and a leg? I think new cars definitely do. Sometimes, when you are talking with a friend, they say something that is exactly right. They describe a situation perfectly. For this, we use idiom number 33, hit the nail on the head. Think about a carpenter using a hammer. If they hit the nail exactly on the top, it goes in perfectly. For example, if your friend says you are tired because you didn't sleep, you can say, you hit the nail on the head. Some learners say, you hit nail on head. Remember those little words. The correct way is, you hit the nail on the head. It's a great way to tell someone they are 100% correct. We talked about secrets earlier, and here is another way to talk about them. This is idiom number 34, let the cat out of the bag. This means you accidentally told a secret that you were supposed to keep. Imagine you are carrying a bag with a cat inside, and the cat jumps out. Everyone can see it now. For example, I wanted to surprise my mom, but my brother let the cat out of the bag. A mistake I see is, he let cat out bag. The correct sentence is, he let the cat out of the bag. Has anyone ever let the cat out of the bag about a surprise for you? It can be a little bit annoying, right? When we feel safe and we aren't worried about anything, we have a special feeling. We call this idiom number 35, peace of mind. This means a feeling of being calm and not having any stress. For example, having a good lock on my door gives me peace of mind when I sleep. Some students make a mistake with the spelling here. They think of a piece of cake and say, I have peace of mind. But that would mean a part of your brain. The correct way to say it is, I have peace of mind, meaning tranquility. What gives you peace of mind? For me, it is knowing that you are all learning and growing. Have you ever had a friend tell you something crazy, like, I just won $1 million, but then they start laughing? They were just joking with you. We use idiom number 36 for this, pull someone's leg. It means to tease someone or tell them something that isn't true as a joke. For example, if I tell you I am a famous movie star, and you believe me, I might say, I'm just pulling your leg. A common mistake is saying, you are pulling my feet. We only use leg for this idiom. The correct sentence is, you are pulling my leg. Have you ever pulled someone's leg so well that they actually believed you? Sometimes we are lucky enough to have two different things that are both good. We call this idiom number 37, the best of both worlds. This means you can enjoy the advantages of two very different situations at the same time. For example, if you live in a quiet house in the country, but you work in a big, exciting city, you have the best of both worlds. Some people say, I have best of both worlds. You need to make worlds plural. The correct way is, I have the best of both worlds. Do you feel like you have the best of both worlds in your life? Now, think about your best friend or your partner. You have probably had good times and bad times together, right? To describe staying together through everything, we use idiom number 38, through thick and thin. Thick means the good, easy times, and thin means the difficult times. For example, my best friend has stayed with me through thick and thin. I often hear learners say, we are together through thick-thin. You need to say, and in the middle. The correct sentence is, we are together through thick and thin. It is a very loyal and beautiful thing to say to someone you love. There are some things in life that we know will never happen. For example, I will never be able to jump over a house. When we want to say something is impossible, we use idiom number 39, when pigs fly. Can pigs fly? No. So that means the thing you are talking about will never happen. For example, if someone asks me if I will go bungee jumping, I might say, I will go bungee jumping when pigs fly. Some learners say, if pigs fly. But the idiom always starts with when. The correct way is, I'll do that when pigs fly. Is there something you would only do when pigs fly? Tell me in the comments. I would love to see your funny examples. Finally, for this group, what happens when someone asks you a question and you really don't know the answer? Instead of just saying, I don't know, you can use idiom number 40. Your guess is as good as mine. This means I have no idea, just like you. For example, if a friend asks, what time does the store open? And you don't know, you say, your guess is as good as mine. A common mistake is, your guess is good as mine. You need to say as twice. The correct sentence is, your guess is as good as mine. It's a very natural and friendly way to admit you don't have the information. Wow, we have now covered 40 idioms together. We are almost at the end of our list of 50. You should be so proud of yourself for staying focused. We learned about things that are a piece of cake, items that cost an arm and a leg, how to hit the nail on the head, and what happens when you let the cat out of the bag. We talked about having peace of mind, pulling someone's leg, having the best of both worlds, staying together through thick and thin, waiting for when pigs fly, and admitting that your guess is as good as mine. I want to see your creativity. Pick one of these idioms and write a sentence about your day in the comments. Are you pulling your friend's leg today? Or was your lunch a piece of cake to make? I can't wait to read them. We only have 10 more idioms left to go, and these last ones are some of the most famous and useful ones in the whole English language. If you are still here, it means you are truly dedicated to your fluency. You have done such an amazing job staying with me through 40 idioms. Now it is time for our final 10. These are some of the most powerful and encouraging phrases you can use in English. Let's jump right into idiom number 41. Blessing in disguise. This is a very beautiful phrase. It means that something which seems bad at first actually results in something very good later. For example, imagine you lose your job, but then you find a much better job with a higher salary. You can say, losing my old job was a blessing in disguise. A common mistake I hear is when students say, it was blessing in disguise. You must remember that word, a. The correct sentence is, it was a blessing in disguise. Have you ever had a bad situation turn into something wonderful? Sometimes, people try to compare two things that are completely different. When they do this, we use idiom number 42, comparing apples to oranges. You cannot compare an apple to an orange because they are different fruits with different tastes. For example, if you say that playing football is like learning to play the piano, your friend might say, you are comparing apples to oranges. A mistake learners make is saying, you compare apple to orange. In this idiom, we always make the fruits plural. The correct way is, you are comparing apples to oranges. It's a great way to tell someone their comparison doesn't make sense. Now, have you ever felt sad about something that already happened and cannot be changed? Maybe you dropped your ice cream or made a small mistake yesterday. For this, we use idiom number 43, cry over spilled milk. If you spill milk, it is gone. Crying won't put it back in the glass. It means complaining about a loss from the past. For example, I know you missed the bus, but don't cry over spilled milk. Just wait for the next one. I often hear people say, don't cry for spilled milk. That is wrong. The correct way is, don't cry over spilled milk. It's a great way to remind yourself to stay positive and look at the future. In fact, Staying positive is exactly what idiom number 44 is about. Every cloud has a silver lining. Think about a dark rain cloud. If the sun is behind it, the edges of the cloud look like they're made of silver. This means that there is something good in every bad situation. For example, even though I am stuck at home, I have more time to study English. Every cloud has a silver lining. A common mistake is saying, every cloud has silver lining. You need to say a. The correct sentence is, every cloud has a silver lining. Do you believe that every difficult time has something good inside it? I certainly do. After a long day of learning, you probably feel very tired. When you are ready to go to sleep, you can use idiom number 45, hit the sack. Sack is an old word for a bed. So, it simply means to go to bed. For example, it's 11 p.m., I am going to hit the sack. Some learners say, I hit a sack. But we usually use the. The correct sentence is, I am going to hit the sack. Try saying that tonight before you go to sleep. What happens when two people are having an argument or a fight? Usually, it isn't just one person's fault. We use idiom number 46, it takes two to tango. The tango is a dance that needs two people. This idiom means that both people involved in a situation are responsible for it. For example, she says it's his fault, but it takes two to tango. A common mistake is, it takes two for tango. The correct preposition is to. The correct way to say it is, it takes two to tango. It's a very smart way to describe a disagreement. Sometimes you need to watch something very carefully. Maybe you are cooking soup or watching a small child playing. For this, we use idiom number 47, keep an eye on. It means to watch someone or something closely. For example, can you keep an eye on my bag while I go to the bathroom? I hear some students say, keep an eye for my bag. That is wrong. The correct way is, keep an eye on my bag. Can you keep an eye on your goals this week? I know you can. If you want to be very productive, you might try idiom number 48, kill two birds with one stone. This sounds a bit violent, but it is just a figure of speech. It means to achieve two things at the same time with only one action. For example, by listening to the CK English podcast while I drive to work, I killed two birds with one stone. I am traveling and learning at the same time. Some people say, I killed two birds by one stone. But we use with. The correct sentence is, I killed two birds with one stone. Isn't that a great way to save time? But be careful not to wait too long to take an opportunity, or you might do idiom number 49, miss the boat. This means to be too late to take advantage of something good. Imagine the boat is leaving the dock and you are still standing on the shore. For example, the sale ended yesterday, so I missed the boat on that cheap laptop. Some learners say, I miss the boat when they talk about the past. Remember to use addition. The correct way is, I missed the boat. Don't miss the boat on your English fluency. Keep practicing every day. Finally, we have reached idiom number 50. This is a classic. No pain, no gain. This means that you have to work hard and go through some difficulty if you want to see a good result. You hear this a lot in the gym, but it works for English too. For example, studying idioms is hard, but no pain, no gain. A common mistake is saying no pain, no gains. We usually keep gain singular. The correct phrase is no pain, no gain. It is the perfect idiom to end our lesson today. We have officially finished our list of 50 idioms. From break the ice all the way to no pain, no gain, you have learned the secret code of native English speakers. I am so incredibly proud of you for finishing this entire lesson. You didn't cut corners, you burned the midnight oil, and now you have the best of both worlds, knowledge and confidence. Before we call it a day, I have a final review challenge for you. I want you to look back at all the idioms we learned. Pick the one that is the most useful for you and write a sentence in the comments below. For example, you could say, learning 50 idioms was a piece of cake with Karis. I will read every single comment and give you a heart if your sentence is correct. And please, if you found this lesson helpful, do not forget to support us. Hit that subscribe button right now, click the like button, and share this video with your friends. We are a growing channel and your support is what allows us to keep making these lessons for you. Thank you for being the best part of the CK English podcast. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and I will see you in our next video. Bye bye for now.